I'm Steve Brule with Studio Brule, and I'm here with the Liberty Bells, who are now 4 from London, England. In case we neglected to mention it, Belinda has bowed out of the Liberty Bells last week, so we're now 4, and 3 of them, 3 are online with us. A minute, I've got this. Belinda has bowed out of the Liberty Bells last week. Sorry about that. The echo here. So we have 30 minutes, and we're going to try to keep this really snappy because we've got a lot of very interesting topics. And maybe, Catherine, you could lead off with what's on your mind in London and in England this week.
So me personally, I guess just a very quick update on the Oxford student who stabbed her boyfriend. We did talk a lot last week about how the judge was kind of letting her off. I think it is important to just point out that her college has actually said they probably aren't going to allow her back. They haven't made the decision yet. But I think it is really important just to point out when actually things do seem to be going in a little bit more of a sane direction. So she was on disciplinary notice. She'd had all kinds of problems with drugs, all kinds of problems with behavior. She's assaulted other people, and she probably won't be allowed back into her college to study. So yeah, I guess that's just a quick update. And I guess secondly, the Conservative Party's new manifesto has, as Sargon has done a whole video about it a couple of days ago, but Theresa May has, I think, moved towards the centre and said that she is basically going to regulate the internet, and I think she wants Great Britain to take a leading role in censoring the internet, I guess. So as I've said, my personal 2 cents on that is I don't really see how she had any other choice. There have been constant updates in the media. Every time you open the paper, there's stories about Facebook and how they allow misogynistic content. So there are really, really strong pushes for this. So over to anyone else that has 2 cents to add.
Yeah, that's part of the whole censorship movement. I don't know how they can actually censor the internet, since it's pretty much global, and people will just move their comments elsewhere. Paula, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I think the government does have a certain role in, managing that kind of thing. But as far as, it going any further than what it is at the minute, I don't know how they could actually do that without there being major protests. And hopefully there will be major protests. I'm just trying to look at the Lib Dem speech on that. I haven't had time to read it all yet, but maybe we'll talk about that next week if we update on that.
Thanks. Natoya, what do you think? Any comment on that?
Yeah, I guess what I was saying earlier was that I think that the most realistic thing that will happen if Theresa May wins and the Conservatives win the election is the expansion of hate speech laws, rather than this kind of whole convoluted expectation of businesses who have websites and they have comments or they have articles that the government deems, to be extremist or far right, possibly. I just don't think that realistically will go through in the smooth way that they would like at this present. I think the expansion of hate speech laws is definitely going to happen, and I also think it's going to include criticising feminism, because the EU has been trying to promote that in the past. And I have suspicions that even though we're leaving the EU in the UK, there's quite a few of the ideas that they have that are more cultural based rather than economic will still seep into our government, because Theresa May secretly Remainer, and there are quite a few people in the Conservative Party who will Remainers too, so they still want to have some laws and policies that are very similar to what the EU wants for us. So that's what I think. Whether or not that's actually going to happen, but that's my opinion. And in a way, I'm secretly happy that this threat is there, because I think the monopoly that Google and Facebook and YouTube, even though we're using it right now and we like you know, you think YouTube's great, they need to kind of be pushed to go in the interest of their customers rather than appeasing governments.
Well, they're going the opposite direction typically these days, with YouTube restricting advertisements placed on what they call controversial or hate channels. I know my channel's gone down by about 75% in revenue since they've implemented this. Another thing that I just want to point out in the link that Catherine provided, which is in the description, folks who are viewing, there's a list of links of topics we're talking about today. It also mentions this is a crackdown on fake news. Now, I don't know about in the UK so much in BBC, but I saw an awful lot of fake news coming from our national news channel, CBC, during the election with Trump versus Hillary. And they're in their choices to deliberately exclude certain embarrassing things about Hillary, whereas maximizing and constantly playing embarrassing things about Trump, to the point where it really was a distortion of events here in Canada and in the US. So,
yeah,
you know, fake news, as far as I can see, I see a lot of fake news coming from our so-called reliable news sources. And that's part of the reason why the internet is becoming popular with dissidents.
And I think there's also this line between fake news and biased news. And I think people, it's this conflation. Again, this happens again with all the Gamergate stuff. There was this, and a lot of the feminist stuff, there's this conflation between genuine criticism and actual kind of, you know, harassment with the fake news. There are literally people sitting in the Balkans writing fake articles like William and Kate are getting divorced just to get clicks. That is fake news. And there's biased journalism. And I just think conflating the two is a really, really dangerous slope.
And isn't that what their intent of this legislation is they are conflating these two. And in fact, it's dangerous when the government puts itself in the role of judge as to what is real news and what is fake news. That is censorship and on a grand scale. Yeah,
I agree. You know, the last couple of days for me have been thinking about dropping or at least putting on hold any kind of anti-feminist or men's rights campaigning or work, and just talking to people about who wants to start a free speech movement. I mean, it's like I forget that we don't have free speech in the UK because I'm on the internet talking to people that value free speech all the time. And then I get reminded by the Conservatives and the general election, and you know, these kind of things that Facebook's doing, where it's saying report fake news, and it doesn't really tell you what it thinks fake news should be or shouldn't be. I don't know if anyone else has had those thoughts, but it's really uncomfortable, to be honest.
Yeah.
Paula,
I mean, I think we do.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
We do. I think we do have. Yeah, I think we do largely have free speech, but it certainly is under attack, definitely concerted attack from the kind of liberal elite, from the neo-Marxist kind of elite. So yeah, that might be, you know, it's kind of fine to have your kind of pet projects, but if there's no free speech, we can't actually talk about them anyway. So maybe that needs to be a kind of focus for.
I'm sorry, guys.
The main focus.
Why does Mia keep waking up every week? She's supposed to be asleep. I'm going to get her. So just carry on talking without me. I'm really sorry.
Okay. No, that's just it. Yeah, I think they'll have a fight on their hands, really. So I don't think people will take that. I mean, I think the demographic for kind of like TV news and stuff like that is, I think the average age is about 60. You know, kind of TV, kind of mainstream media demographics are just falling off. Young people are watching the internet. They're getting their news from the internet now.
Well, on this topic of fake news, and this is, I mean, leads us into another one, which I think Natoya, I hope she comes back, because I think we should jump on this. The Slate article about the Manchester bombing. emphasizing that it's an attack on women, implying, of course, the feminist line that we're always faced with here, that everything is men against women. The article implies that, you know, all men around the world ultimately are responsible for this attack in Manchester in some manner, because it's an attack on women and children.
Yeah, I think they actually say they actually call it the cis heteropatriarchy, don't they? In the article, I think this is just an example of the quality of feminist mercy kind of strained through feminist patriarchy theory.
Well, maybe we should identify Slate as the purveyor of fake news. I don't think it's a far-fetched claim. Anybody want to weigh in on that, Catherine?
Yeah, I'd just like to say a couple of words just about the hypocrisy and the double standards of these people, because I mean, the first thing I'd like to say is I don't think 2 days later is the right time to start saying this happened because of this, that, or the other. I think it's far too soon, and I think people from all sides often jump to these conclusions so quickly. But just what is just so galling about it is that they're allowed to jump to these conclusions. They're allowed to say it's because of someone's gender, or I regularly turn on my Facebook and women and girls are saying, a man touched my bum or said something rude to me. He was white. He was middle-aged, as if it's okay to draw attention to that, whereas obviously it would not be okay to draw attention to, you know, if the person were a different race. And it's just the hypocrisy of it. You know, Owen Jones storming off an interview about the gay nightclub shooting, because even though they'd already established that, yes, of course, it was a homophobic act, possibly it had something to do with mental illness as well. These people want it to only be about their thing, and that's just, and no one else, of course, is afforded that luxury. It's a luxury of one rule for them, another rule for other people. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
It's not say too far-fetched to say that cis hetero white male is pretty much the only demographic where you can say anything you want to, ridicule, criticize, hate on. It's cis hetero white male, and there's no other group responsible for creating this permission in our culture than feminism. It has spent 50 years making sure that cis hetero white male is a legitimate hate target.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone that the left and feminists, cultural Marxists hate more. You know, they're okay with radical Islamic terrorists blowing up little children and young girls, as long as they can continue their agenda and talk about how the fact that it was the patriarchy's fault. And I noticed they don't mention Sharia law, and they don't mention the cultural difference on the kind of brutalism in the ideology of Islam at all. You know, it would be interesting if like, as I said, the title is actually quite representative, because they did, in my mind, they did do it because they were targeting young women and young girls, because they know that we're going to pay attention to that, and it's going to sting and hurt us more than anyone else. So that is true, and for once, Slate actually have a non-clickbaity title, which is actually truth. However, they don't go far enough in their critique. I actually saw it and I got excited for a second. Yes, Mia, because I thought that they might start talking about how Islam has issues when it comes to how it treats women, and in fact how it treats everyone. But yeah, it doesn't say that at all. It just talks about.
This is a case of a deception, a very subtle kind of deception, in that it's not cis hetero white males, or it's not an attack on women by men, because in the West there is no restrictions of a women's sexuality, and this is one of the issues that I think people mention on this target, is that this is a young girls and a woman here who presents herself as a sexual person and blah blah blah. I don't really know her, but Islam has a problem with explicit female sexuality in public. So it is really Islamic. It's as a in origin, the motivation, but it's specific within Islam, as in this particular case, maybe their opposition to women expressing their sexuality in that kind of typical Western way. There is no restrictions in the West on these women, on women expressing their sexuality in this way.
Yeah, and women in those societies just support castration and all of those things just as much as men do, if not more. So it's a clash of cultures. It's not men versus women. It's culture. It's that culture versus liberal democracy. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Oh, they love some slut shaming in Islamic culture. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's so many studies that kind of where they ask if women are in favor of domestic violence in those kinds of cultures in Sudan and lots of places, and they say it's perfectly reasonable for a man to beat his wife if she's being a slut. There's no gender difference, there's no sex difference whatsoever. It's a cultural phenomena. It's not a sex or
am I right, Paula, that there was also a study that showed that within Islamic culture that a wife beating a man was acceptable too? Or am I making that up?
No, I think they do. I can't remember just off the top of my head. I'll have to go and look for it.
Yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in there. Just saying that there's more than meets the eye. Yeah.
But well, it depends what then you have to define what beating is, because apparently beating just means a light tap if you try and corner somebody about it. But obviously then why would you call it beating? Who's going to be
That's the same in our culture. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where a sexual assault is merely brushing against someone. Look what happened to Pearson. Yeah. Was it Pearson or Pierce? Mark Pierce?
Oh, Pearson. Mark Pearson. Yeah. Yeah, well, that was a complete setup by the CPS because they have ideologically driven targets. But anyway, I think we should move on to the next subject.
Sure.
Next topic we have. Catherine, was there anything else that you had?
Nothing major. Do you want to talk about the hustings first? So, because I know you've definitely got to go at 3, so we definitely need to talk about that.
Okay, great. So on the 30th of May, the Shipley Feminist Zealots, who are the campaign group that formed as in opposition to Philip Davies, they have arranged their own hustings. So I guess I wanted to mention it because I am possibly going to go, but I need to confirm that 100%. But I have put on our Facebook page, Ladies of Philip Davies, that if anyone is in the area, in the Yorkshire area, or they are in that part of the UK and they want to go and they want to question the candidates and they want to meet some of these Shipley Feminist Zealots and just sort of hear about why they hate Philip Davies so much and why they think he's a misogynist, then please go along. Remember, it's an election hustings. So think about, they'll have a kind of Q&A debate style setup. But I also read that they've kind of have done 2. They're doing one at 1 p.m. and one at 7:30. And they're doing it where they're all sitting in a circle and it's more informal rather than a formal question time one first, and then a question time format. Question time in the UK is like a kind of debate show.
Are they sitting legs crossed?
I have no idea.
With their legs crossed?
If they are, that would be great. That would be interesting because then it would kind of be reminiscent of how feminists have organised themselves in the past, in the 70s, where they all had consciousness-raising groups and they'd all sit around in a circle.
Consciousness-raising groups.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do we want? Destroy. You know, destroy the patriarchy. When do we want it? Now.
They were, yeah, they were also kind of lesbian parties, weren't they? They were kind of lesbian grooming parties to kind of teach young women how to be political lesbians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's very
Can you,
true.
tell us when, where, when, the time, dates, places for the.
I've already done that, but I will tell you again.
Oh, you did.
It's
Okay.
on the
Just send it to me.
30th.
I'll put it in the
I thought you
description
meant
later.
I can put it
I
in
thought
the
you meant the
description.
lesbian parties.
No. But yeah, so the 30th of May, there's one at 1 p.m. and there's one at 7:30, and they have tickets on Eventbrite. They're free tickets, but you have to register in advance to go. So if you're in the UK, especially if you're in Yorkshire and Shipley is your constituency, please go along and just find out what they have to say. And just maybe if you're undecided about Philip Davies still, then you can ask for facts on both sides, because he obviously will be there. And I potentially will be there as well. If so, you know, you get to meet me. That'd be nice. Yeah. Also, so the Philip Davies, just to give you guys an update, I'm deliberately not sort of doing anything this week online, really, because of the Manchester bombing, out of respect to that. But as soon as kind of election campaigning officially continues again, then, you know, we'll probably be talking again on social media and such. All right. So that's it from me, really.
So can we move along to another issue here? This conceptual penis. Have anybody been following this?
I'd like to hear Paula talk about that, actually, because I know Paula's got more experience with the whole academic article side of things, and you've looked a bit more at the postmodernist versus the science. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear Paula's opinion.
I haven't read it, actually. It seemed just far too good to be true. It was like kind of like it just dropped into the hands of, and actually it doesn't appear to be. I mean, everybody's kind of the Sokol hoax from Alan Hockel made a really famous hoax paper a few years ago now. And it doesn't really bear that kind of resemblance to it, because I think the target journal that they wanted to put it in actually didn't accept it. So they put it forward into another one, which is a kind of pay-for-view kind of vanity kind of thing. So it's not as a good kind of scoop as you like, really. But I mean, it is nonsense. But I think real peer review, they're on Twitter, kind of come up with just as many ludicrous kind of things on their feed every day.
It's maybe not a hoax in the sense of what it reveals about gender studies.
Yeah.
In a sense,
yeah, but
it's kind of
it's funny.
Poe's law, right? I mean, the language is very much the kind of language that comes out of gender studies all the time.
I would actually say that I wouldn't call it spoof feminist analysis. I would call it actual feminist analysis. I was just reading Naomi Wolf, The Beauty Myth, and I would say that her writing is she writes in a very kind of academic style, but the actual level of kind of scientific evidence and support for her musings is basically zero, and it's just as incoherent, it's just as bizarre, the insanity of the analysis. And I would agree with you, Paula, that the Twitter account Real Peer Review, some of the actual research papers that it tweets out are worse and stupider than this. I would say it was actual feminist analysis.
But yeah, the beauty myth is, I haven't been able to finish it. It's terrible.
The best one, the most incoherent part was when she was talking about in the 1970s when men grew their hair and wore sort of frilly shirts and men became more feminine. It was an expression of misogyny because they were appropriating women. And I can't remember how she argued it. It was just like, you have lost your mind. And also there was no evidence. You know, and I'm someone that I spend a lot of time teaching Shakespeare, and I can tell you can analyze something however you want.
Yeah.
You can analyze Hamlet to say it's about dishwashers, and that's all it is. And then it gets published and people can cite it, and it's all it is someone's mental gymnastics. That's all it is.
It is.
Yeah, and then as the citations start to give it claimed legitimacy as the citations mount, she must be just going bonkers seeing the man buns and the earrings and the eyeliner on men today, right?
Oh, the peacocking. Mm.
Yeah.
Although it seems to be long, I would say that there's a kind of trend, I think, in that female intersexual competition is a bit heightened, and I think you can see that in the hyper kind of glamour fashion of women at the minute. With most young girls have long hair, they're hyper feminine, they're really interested in makeup. You know, duck face.
The eyebrows.
Yeah, eyebrows.
I hate those. Anyway.
I think I think that's a kind of manifestation of what we're seeing. Kind of is there's the competition between girls for getting the decent men that are out there, because there are less of them going to university. So the competition in universities and in schools, and who are not just dropouts.
And also, after the financial crisis in 2008, when a lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of men, professional men lost their jobs, that was when fashion for do you remember those super high heels? I mean, I was like 24 at the time, and I actually was I 22? However old I was in 2008, I actually bought a pair of those bonkers high heels. And it was very women were going to clubs in these literally dangerous shoes, and it was all long hair and glossy and lipstick, and I guess it was, the resources were scarce, and put on the
sales of
1940s.
Sales of lipstick and makeup go up in times of economic recession.
Tell me, what do you make of women claiming, and I hear this a lot, that they wear these high heels and these tight, uncomfortable stuff and all this war paint on because it makes them feel good. They do it for themselves. What do you make?
No. Omits the rest of the reasoning.
We've lost contact here.
With me?
I'm not sure. I'm not getting a signal. Okay, you're coming through now, but for a minute there, yeah, you were all frozen, just like Catherine said there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll comment again. I think that comment is correct. They are doing it because they want to make themselves feel good, but the reason that they feel good is because they look sexy, and they want other women to comment and say, "You look good." That's the reason.
Isn't it also about sexual power over men? For heterosexual.
Yeah, but it's not direct. It's not them saying, looking in the mirror going, today I will have sexual power over men. Although I have thought that. I have no problems admitting that. But
mostly I think it's
on a conscious level.
Mostly it's about intimidating their rivals. That's it. Especially the female intersexual competition, I think, because men don't like duck face. Men don't like women with all of that makeup on. Yeah, men are not particularly, they like natural beauty, and they don't like skinniness. Everything you see kind of in that extreme kind of fashion magazine look versus, what you see in the men's magazine, which is a curvy kind of natural look. The fashion magazine personifies women competing with each other about what they think men want, which is often, an extreme version of that. And magazines are what actually men find attractive, but then again you do see that extreme kind of version in men's fitness magazines, where they're kind of a bit kind of super stimuli, they're buffed up to a kind of super stimuli kind of level, and women don't like that either. But again, it's kind of just the other end of that kind of spectrum.
That's an excellent point. Thanks for bringing that up.
I think it's more to do with intersexual competition rather than inter-actual competition between men and women. But it does obviously have...
It is a great point, because a lot of men do believe that also that women are interested in these hyper-muscularized bodies. When you see the bodybuilder bodies, But I have heard many times from different women that they aren't attracted to that over muscularized body.
No.
Well, how do you ladies feel about that? When you see the Arnold Schwarzenegger type, is this like a turn on or what?
No, it's grotesque.
He's yeah, when he went too far, he was too grotesque. I think a little bit of muscle, and a lot of hair. I like a lot of hair.
A lot of hair.
That's good for me.
Okay.
Just
on her head
the back.
or elsewhere?
Don't get a hairy back.
Not on the back.
If
Not on
you're
the back.
a woman, don't get a hairy back.
Yeah, my heart belongs to Keanu, whether he's buff or skinny or whatever. So.
And what about fat levels? Like a lot of guys want those veins and muscle fibers to be right out there and detailed.
No.
No.
No, not really.
Muscle is nice, but not too muscly.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
I also think that this is what I think, that if a man is too polished and too chiseled and his woman kind of isn't, then it hurts her even more if it was the other way around, because, you know, generally women like to be looked at. And so if the guy is sort of always chiseling away at his muscles and the woman is kind of, you know, she's all right, but she hasn't really got a kind of toned body in the same way, it's really going to hurt her ego. And I would feel that way anyway. I once went out with a guy when I was younger who was skinnier than me at the time, and it really bothered me, like on a shallow level, but it bothered me. So
well, this is very, very fascinating because it highlights the difference between intersexual and intrasexual competition. In men's case, I think a lot of that muscle building is competing with other men to who is the top dog amongst the group of men.
Oh yeah.
And
well, reproductive variance is
physical performance is high up there on the list of intrasexual competition between men, strength and all the rest of that stuff. So we should be wrapping up here. There was a couple of other little topics. Does anybody want to touch on anything in particular quickly before we sort of wind it up?
No, unfortunately, I've got to go, but we can save them for next time.
Okay.
Okay.
Terrific.
Take
Once
care.
again, everybody, thanks for joining us. Thanks, viewers, for watching, and we'll be here again for a half-an-hour update on status of social issues in London and their comments from Liberty Bells for issues around the world. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.